Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on another edition of Extreme Health Radio. We are very excited about this show, aren't we, Kate?
I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, this is going to be a good show, and we have lots to talk about today with Dr. Carl O Helvie, and we're going to be talking about lung cancer and how he survived and talk about his story, which is really cool because I like to speak with people who have actually done it instead of just theory. There's a lot of great theories out there, but it'll be great to talk to someone who's actually done it.
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. My name is Justin, and my co-host in the studio today is Kate.
Hey, everybody.
Don't be shy.
I'm also the wife.
Also the wife, yeah. And you live here, too.
That works out pretty good. And I live here.
And we're broadcasting worldwide from Southern California. And it's another day in paradise. Well, kind of. It's very cloudy today, but we'll call it paradise. And we do shows 4 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So it's an honor to be doing this show for you. And if you'd like to follow us on Facebook, feel free to join our community. We've got lots of people on there, and it grows every day. It's really fun to interact with everyone, and we post a few times a day. That's extremehealthradio.com/Facebook, and you can just go ahead and click the like button on there, and you'll be following us. It'd be good to interact with you. And I want to thank Mike Adams of naturalnewsradio.com, a really great radio station that he allows us to be on. So check that out. And for reference, today is Monday, April 22nd, 2013. Time's flying by, isn't it?
Oh, man. It was just Christmas.
It was just Christmas.
I don't know what happened.
We wake up and it's April.
You blink and it's April.
And this is episode number 91, so you could check it out at extremehealthradio.com/91. And if you have any questions for the guest or for Kate or for me, you can email them to me at justin@extremehealthradio.com, or you could email Kate at
extremehealthradio.com.
Awesome. And we also have another feature on our website. It's a voicemail thing, and you can leave a voicemail right from your computer. So you can go to extremehealthradio.com/voicemail, and you'll be able to send a question to us right on your computer, which is a really great thing. And I want to just let you know this show is brought to you by Amazon.com. So if you'd like to support our work, we'd greatly appreciate anytime you go to Amazon and buy anything. It doesn't have to be health related. If you could go through our link, which is extremehealthradio.com/Amazon, that would be really great, because then we would be able to get commission, and that would be a great way to support us. So please consider doing that if you'd like to support us. And we've got some really great guests coming up. I'm just blown away. We've got all the time just amazing guests here.
I know.
It's so fun. And on Wednesday, April 24th, we've got Timothy Hickey of friendsofwater.com. So if you're looking for a great water filter and don't know where to look, make sure to listen to that show, because he's a real fascinating guy. And we also have Daniel Vitalis on Thursday, April 25th. And he'll be talking about rewilding and all kinds of really amazing things.
Awesome.
He's always a cutting-edge guy. And then on Monday, April 29th, Kate, we've got Chris Keller from chriskeller.com, and he's an energetic healer kind of guy.
Right.
So that's going to be
Heard
interesting.
about him. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
Awesome.
And today we've got a great guest, Dr. Carl O Helvie, and he is, from what we think, is the longest living lung cancer survivor in the world. And he was diagnosed, I believe, in around 74 or 75 or so, and had lung cancer and was able to reverse it using natural methods, which is awesome.
Wow.
And that's what we like to hear. And he's also got a website called beatlungcancer.net. And he's authored a book called You Can Beat Lung Cancer Using Alternative Integrated Interventions. And he goes around and lectures and has his own radio show. And I can imagine he really wants to spread the word. So thanks so much, Doctor, for being on the show.
Thank you, Justin. I'm happy to be with you and Katie.
Thank you.
So you staying warm there in Virginia?
No, it's cold, but the geese were in my yard this morning, and I got up there and I chased them out, and that warmed me up.
Is that your morning exercise routine, chasing the geese?
Yeah, mostly. But what I do is I take an umbrella. It's a huge umbrella, and I get behind the umbrella and I go, and then I start running. And then they fly away, and then I don't see them for a couple days, but then they're back. And you got to realize that I'm almost 81.
Oh,
and
my
I'm
gosh.
still running.
Oh, that's awesome. That's better than me. I have a torn ACL, so I can't even run. So you're doing better than I am.
Ooh, that's not good.
I love it.
That's great. So you are 3 hours ahead of us. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So great. Thanks.
So I just had lunch.
Okay.
Wow.
And what kinds of foods do you eat these days? You had lunch. What kind of lunch did you have?
Well, I eat light at lunch, and I usually eat a soup and often I'll eat a tomato soup or I'll drink tomato juice because I had some minor problems about a year ago, and I consulted a homeopathic doctor, and she really didn't know what she was doing, and it was a while before I broke away from her, and I ended up with a pretty bad potassium and iodine imbalance, and so I try to get lots of potassium in my food because I'm afraid to take potassium supplements because they, have an effect on the heartbeat, and I don't want to mess with that.
Oh yeah.
So, but I also, but I'll take the potassium. I won't take the potassium. I'm sorry, it's the potassium that has the problem with the heart. But I do take 3 drops of Lugo solution now that gives me the iodine that I need that keeps my thyroid in shape.
Oh, okay.
And the potassium I try to get from the food. So tomato is probably the best source because like a glass of tomato juice will give you 700 milligram, whereas people think of a banana, but a big banana will only give you about 250.
Oh, wow.
And people need somewhere around 4,000 milligram of potassium daily.
Wow.
And it's almost impossible to get that much.
Isn't there a lot of potassium as well in coconut water?
Yes, there is. Right.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
And so do you blend up the tomatoes and do a drink like that, or?
No, I buy an organic tomato juice. Tomatoes are one of the things that are genetically modified, so I will not eat regular tomatoes unless it's one of my brother grew his own fruit and vegetables until last summer. He's 91, and
wow.
I'd eat a tomato out of his garden, but ordinarily I won't out of a supermarket. I won't eat a tomato.
Do you know? Is there a way to know if certain foods are genetically modified? I know that here in California they were talking about labeling, but is that across the country?
No, there's no labeling anywhere in the country, and this has been a big concern of not most people, all the people I know are concerned that it's not labeled, and that's why many of us eat organic or locally grown, and I eat locally grown if I know who the farmer is and I know what his practices are. But there's no labeling. Now, Connecticut tried to label, and they were threatened by Monsanto, and Monsanto has all the money and the connections with the federal government, so they backed down. And I was very disappointed that it didn't pass in California, but Monsanto, again, put so much money into it failing that there was no way that people could compete as far as the advertising. So I think that, money seems to talk with health and everything else in this country, and it's unfortunate because it's the same with traditional cancer treatments. It's the same with everything, but our food supply is a mess because of the genetically modified foods and the growth hormones and the pesticides and all of the other things in it. So anyone with cancer really should eat organic. Fortunately, when I had it 38 years ago, that was not a consideration because the food was not polluted at that time.
Yeah, you were eating already organic food, and you didn't even have to specify back then.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Things have changed, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, Doctor, let's go back a little bit, and I know you've told your story 1,000 times, but for our listeners, it would be great to just kind of get a snapshot in time of what your life was, maybe before cancer, maybe some things that you think could have contributed to it, and and how the diagnosis went, and just the whole story of how you got diagnosed and why you didn't want to go conventional.
Well, I don't remember exactly what my life was like back in 1974. I think it was pretty stable. I had moved to my current area of the country in 1971, so I had 3 years to get settled, and I had been teaching at the same university, and I don't remember if there being much stress in my life. But I had a dream that told me to go for a chest x-ray, and I pay attention to my dreams because I believe that God speaks with us if we listen, and one way is through our dreams, through our intuition, through things we read, through other people.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I went to the doctor, and my doctor was very conservative, so I could not tell him I was there because I had a dream. But at that time, you had to have a referral from your doctor in order for the insurance to pay for anything. And so I asked him for an x-ray, and he asked if I had symptoms, and I said no, and he kept asking, well, why'd I want it? And I just kept saying I wanted it. So he sent me, and they found a spot that had not been there previously, and they asked if I'd come for a biopsy, so I went to the hospital, and they did the biopsies, and they confirmed that it was lung cancer, and my doctor came with the surgeon, and they're telling me that they're going to do chemo and surgery. And I told them, I said, wait a minute, I don't make snap decisions. I go home, I pray about it, I make a rational decision. And they said, well, you'll be dead in 6 months. And I said, well, that's my responsibility. Your responsibility is to tell me the pros and cons of surgery and radiation or chemotherapy, and my responsibility is to make the decision.
Wow.
And they kept saying, well, you'll be dead. Well, back then, people did not talk to the doctor that way. I mean, the doctor was God.
Yeah. Well,
And-
still these
And
days.
especially with nurses. I mean, nurses didn't talk to doctors that way either.
No.
But I felt like God was behind me. And so I came home, and I talked with a good friend who actually was my doctor's sister, but he didn't know we even knew each other. And she was the opposite from him, and she had worked with a lot of cancer patients and had referred them for Laetrile, which was illegal at the time. And my friend said she would watch her dreams, I'd watch my dreams, we'd pray for guidance. We were in a Search for God group together, which was one of the Edgar Cayce groups that people met in around the world in homes, and they meditated and they used books called Search for God, and the emphasis was on becoming a better person and interacting better with your fellow man, and learning all of the spiritual attributes like how to be. There's a chapter on patience, on forgiveness, on brotherly love, etc. And so Ursula and I were in that group together, and she also knew a psychic and asked if I wanted a psychic reading, and I thought, well, I have nothing to lose, and so we got the reading, and everything pointed to not having surgery and chemo and to use a natural approach. So Ursula knew this physician in Vienna, Virginia, who had worked for the National Cancer Institute, and he was having so much success that the FDA and the medical profession closed them down. And so he continued doing this in private practice, but I had to sign forms that I wouldn't report him. And as an aside, within 5 years after I finished treatment, he disappeared, and I didn't know what happened. But recently I was interviewed by someone from Northern Virginia, and they told me that the Virginia Medical Board brought him before them, and they took his license. And I felt so bad because this man was only trying to save lives, and I pray that he found something in life that was as rewarding to him as it was to save people's lives.
Wow.
And so he prescribed my regime, which was I took the Laetrile.
Okay. Now, was the Laetrile a supplement that you took, or was it like a tincture or something?
A Laetrile is a supplement, and it's another name is vitamin B17, or amygdalin is another name. And the greatest source is the apricot kernel. You know, there's that hard shell inside the apricot, and inside that hard shell is a kernel. And the kernels are very high in Laetrile, and the theory is that people have a deficiency of this vitamin B17, and that, if it becomes too severe, then you can develop cancer. And the traditional literature will tell you that it's not safe to eat the apricot kernels, and it's not safe to take Laetrile. I said, I guess ignorance is bliss, because I didn't know that at the time, and I ate these things for 2 years, and it didn't even affect me. I didn't have any side effects.
Well, you're still alive, so it's obviously...
Yeah, right. But what they don't tell you in the traditional literature is that there is cyanide in the apricot kernels and in the Laetrile, but that there are enzymes around the cancer cell that activate the cyanide, but those enzymes are not present around normal cells, so that it is very specific for cancer cells. Then I also took very huge therapeutic doses of vitamin A, like 300,000 international units the first week, then 150,000, and then 50,000. And as you probably know, 5,000 is the recommended daily allowance.
Right.
And being a fat soluble, it's not excreted like the B's and the K's, and the, let's see, ADEK. I'm sorry, the K is another fat soluble, the ADEK.
So were you getting a lot of issues with your family members and friends for not going down the traditional route?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
My mother, said, well, why don't you have the surgery and the chemotherapy and then do these as supplements? But I wasn't comfortable with that. And my colleagues, if they talked with me at all about it, they again thought that I should do what the doctor wanted.
Wow.
And the only one that really supported me was my friend Ursula.
Okay, so you were taking the vitamin A, and then you had the
And I
Laetrile?
took vitamin E, which again is a fat soluble, and that was also a high dose. But he told me that the E would help with the toxic effects of the vitamin A.
Okay.
Then I took a variety of Bs. I took pancreatic enzymes, which are very important when you take the Laetrile, because it softens the hard shell around the cancer cells, so that the Laetrile can get in and work on the cancer cells. He put me on a diet that was very similar to what the vegan diet is now. It was like 75% raw fruit and vegetables with grains and nuts, but no peanuts, because they're a high source of protein. And I could have no protein, so that meant no meat, dairy, chicken, no simple sugars like cake, pie, candy, all of that. And
but the fruit sugars were acceptable?
Right.
Okay.
They were fine. But there are people now that limit the amount of, fruit sugars that you can have. But one thing I found was I gained weight on that diet. I guess I was eating too much fruit, so I had to push back. I think I was afraid that if I didn't eat a lot of the fruit and vegetables that I'd get hungry because I wasn't getting any protein.
Right.
And so I actually was putting on some weight when I was on that. But I reached a point where I had symptoms of kwashiorkor, which is a condition that is most prevalent in Africa, where the mothers breastfeed after there's no longer any milk.
How do you say that condition again?
Kwashiorkor.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And it's a protein deficiency, and I don't remember the symptoms they had, but I knew I was having a protein deficiency, so I started taking some pre-digested protein.
Okay.
And that seemed to handle the problem. And I did this for 2 years. He also had me detox once a month with just fruit and vegetable juices for 1 day.
Okay.
And then I kept going to my doctor every 3 months for x-rays, but I didn't tell him I was doing anything, so he thought we were in a wait-and-see mode.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 years, the spot was gone, and so he said he guessed he had made the wrong diagnoses.
Yeah.
And so my friend, who I taught with at Duke, he was a physician in pediatrics, but by this time he's the medical director for Blue Cross Blue Shield for the state of North Carolina.
Wow.
And he asked to see the biopsy and the x-rays and all of the lab. And I got them all together, and I took them down, and he reviewed them, and he said it definitely was lung cancer.
And so that was one spot, or did you have multiple spots on your lung? Or?
No, I think there was just the one, so it was probably either stage 1 or 2 because, again, I didn't have any symptoms.
Okay.
And usually the reason that the death rate is higher for lung cancer than any of the other sites is because you don't have symptoms until it reaches an advanced stage.
Oh, I see. Okay. Wow, this would be a great time to take a break. We're with Dr. Carl O Helvie, and his website, if you're interested, is beatlungcancer.net, and he's got his own radio show, and his book, again, is You Can Beat Lung Cancer Using Alternative Integrative Interventions, and just really great information, huh, Kate?
Yeah, the story.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we will be right back after this short break with Dr. Carl O Helvie. So there's no real way to avoid toxins or chemicals in our daily life. It seems like we're exposed to them no matter what we do in our lives, from paint fumes to mercury fillings, coal-fired plants, perfumes, soaps, off-gassing of carpets in our houses, and genetically modified foods, and foods that are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, the xenoestrogens in plastics and car exhaust, secondhand smoke, even your dry cleaning and laundry detergents, even your mattresses have chemicals inside them that outgas. So getting these toxins and chemicals and poisons out of your bloodstream and out of your fat cells is going to be really critical moving forward in our society, because it seems like every year there's more and more chemicals that keep becoming introduced with new products in the market. So I would consider getting one of these far infrared saunas. We've got a great sauna developed by Phil Wilson, and I've known about his work for many, many years, and I'm so proud to be offering his sauna on our website. And he's been in this business since 1975. And this sauna is really great because it slows the aging process. It helps with weight loss and burning calories. I think you can burn like 600 calories in 15 or 20 minutes, and it helps to cleanse the skin. It improves your sleep and helps to prevent illnesses like flus and colds, as well as energizing the body. And it's great for improving blood circulation and promoting cellular renewal, as well as increasing metabolism and inducing profuse sweating. And it's really, really great. And the great thing is, too, is you don't produce any lactic acid. So you can sweat without producing any of this lactic acid that you would normally produce if you lifted weights or went for a big long run. So if you're interested in this, you can check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna. It's great because it sets up in about 2 to 5 minutes, and it's portable, and it's super easy to clean. It's got low electromagnetic field radiation coming off of it, and it produces energy and heat inside the sauna evenly. It's great machine. So if you're interested in sweating like this for only 15 minutes a day, it's great. It requires 0 preheating. It's got a 1-year warranty. And Phil Wilson is a great guy. We're so proud to be offering his saunas on our website. So if you're interested, check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna. Or you could check it out in our store, and it's $990 plus $25 shipping. And that's really a good deal because many of the saunas out there, you can check them out. They're in the thousands of dollars, $2,000 to $4,000. So this is great. You can buy it through PayPal. You don't even need a PayPal account. It's 100% secure. So consider doing this if you're interested in living a long, healthy, disease-free life. So check it out, extremehealthradio.com/sauna. I'm out of breath again, Kate.
Oh, this always happens.
I jump on the rebounder during the commercial, and then I come back and I can't talk, right?
You don't waste a minute, do you?
No, it feels so good. It wakes you up, you know?
Invigorating, isn't it?
Yeah. We're having a good time here with Dr. Carl O Helvie, and he's the longest living lung cancer survivor. And his website is beatlungcancer.net, and he's got his book on there, and he has his own radio show, and he interviews lots of people concerning cancer, and a lot of good stuff on his website, beatlungcancer.net. Excuse me, I'm just out of breath here. But doctor, so before the break, we were talking a little bit about some of the protocols that you were doing as far as natural treatments, and you were doing the Laetrile and the high dose vitamin A, I think you were talking about, as well as fruit juices and things, and vegetable juices. And what other things were you doing on many different levels were you doing at the time?
Well, I believe in holism, and so I added, the doctor primarily gave me physical things to do, and I added mental and spiritual, because my definition of holism is physical, mental, spiritual, relationships, the environment, and politics, because they all influence health. But at that point, I wasn't ready to get involved in political action. But I did add things like affirmations, meditation, visualization, prayer. I called Olga Worrell, a psychic healer in Baltimore, Maryland, who was one of the best known at that time, and I was on her prayer list. I tried to serve others. I tried to strengthen my patience, forgiveness, and brotherly love, etc. So I was trying to add all of the mental and spiritual activities that I could think of.
Now, how important do you think those things are if you were to compare them to just traditional, well, not traditional, but just the diet part and the maybe perhaps exercise part? If you were to compare the two, how would you compare which one is more important? Because it seems like the emotional side is really important.
Right. And I think that the prayer and the faith is as important as the diet and the Laetrile and the other things that I did. And I have a lot of faith, and I think that it was reinforced when I had the dream that told me to go in the first place. So I felt like that God was with me through this process, you know, and I apologize to those people that believe in a different, higher source, but my source is God. And so I had a lot of faith, and the research now emphasizes that optimism will increase people's lifespan. It will help them overcome illnesses quicker than people that are negative. So that there's a lot to optimism. There's also a lot to spirituality. I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. I have a strong faith, but I don't believe in the dogma of churches. But a lot of the research that has been done around religion, because it's easier to measure some of the outcomes with those groups than it is with people that are spiritual.
Okay.
So I think that it's just as important, and I think that the mind does some interesting things, because I hear from probably 50 or 60 people every month, and they usually start with, the doctor tells me I have 3 months or I have 6 months, etc. Well, I tell them that is not a medical diagnosis. That is a God diagnosis, and only God knows when we're going to die.
Right.
And I was given that same diagnosis 38 years ago, and I'm still here. So don't believe that, because I think that if people think they're going to die, they have one mindset. But if they see someone else has lived 38 years when they were told that same thing, they have a different mindset. And that mindset can make all of the difference in the world, I think.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I think we spoke to a doctor recently who mentioned the same thing you were just saying. And he was saying that when people actually go get a diagnosis from a doctor, let's say they have a flu or diabetes or something, they actually pick up a second virus during that time. And he said the second virus is actually the diagnosis of the doctor saying, you now have cancer, or you now have something. And it's very powerful, because when the doctor says you have this, then that itself is its own virus that needs to be healed, because we have this complete reverence for doctors and believe everything they say, and so it was very interesting to hear him say that, and I think it's true, because as soon as the doctor mentions something that you have, your heart sinks in your stomach. You feel it in your stomach.
When you almost start developing those, feelings and symptoms that you all of a sudden you didn't have right away.
Yeah. It's like the placebo effect, kind of.
Wow.
The other thing I think is important is that a lot of people, after they have cancer, they dwell on it. They worry that it's going to come back, and they're worried that they aren't doing the right thing to prevent it from coming back and all of that. To me, you need to just get involved and get busy and do stuff in life and forget about yourself and let God take care of it. Again, that to me is sort of a lack of faith. I continued teaching through my whole 2 years. I never had side effects. I continued teaching. I have been so busy since that I never had time to think about would it come back or not, and it never came back. But I have always kept very busy. I've thrown my life into my career as a nurse to help other people, and I think that it's so important that we keep busy and we try to serve other people, and we don't focus on ourselves.
Yeah, I completely agree.
You can't help but wonder if you would have taken those few years and just worried if it would have been a different outcome for you.
Right, Katie. Right.
Wow. So now you got the energetic side, or the faith and believing in God and doing your work and doing all the kinds of things like that. And so in the meantime, you were doing all of the dietary regimen protocols that you were doing. And so you continued on that for a couple years and then got another checkup. And is that when you found out that the spot was gone, or?
Right. Okay. After 2 years, right.
Where did your diet and your supplementation go from there? Did you change things up, or did you continue down that path for a long time?
Katie, I stayed close to what I did before because I think that it was a good lifestyle. I've continued with my prayer, my meditation, and affirmations, and I walk every day. I live on the Chesapeake Bay on a little island, and I walk every day by the water, which is very calming. And I mentioned the geese. Well, the geese only stay a couple months of the year, but we have deer and a red fox and a gray fox and rabbits and all kinds of wildlife. And I'm 15 minutes to the expressway going to Norfolk and Virginia Beach, and I'm very close to major cities. But it's a nice place to live and a nice place to walk, so it's very calming. And my diet that you asked about, I did add some chicken.
Oh, you did?
And I do eat some fish and seafood occasionally, but not too often because of the mercury levels in the fish and seafood.
Right.
And I never eat farm-grown because of toxins in the farm-grown. And so my lifestyle my diet is still pretty close to a lot of fruit and vegetables, and I eat a lot of nuts and not as much grains. And then occasionally, I'll eat maybe some chicken once a day because it's kind of hard to get your protein otherwise. I eat a protein drink at breakfast, and then usually I'll have a salad or at lunch with cheese or something, and then at night I might have a piece of chicken or a piece of fish or something.
Sounds pretty similar to what we do, actually.
Sounds like our diet.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
And, I think that it's a good diet to follow. And as I say, I've added the organic or the locally grown in the last few years because of the contamination of the food supply. And I walk every day. I try to keep busy, and I keep over busy. As I said, I'll be 81 in August.
Wow.
Nice.
I have
Very
my
nice.
radio show, I am marketing my book that came out in November. That was my 8th book.
Wow.
And I have done between 35 and 40 radio shows,
Wow.
3 TV shows. I've been interviewed and written some articles for about 6 magazines.
Wow.
I'm writing regularly now for another magazine. I'm starting a foundation for people that want alternative treatments for cancer.
Wow.
I write a monthly newsletter, so I keep busy.
Sure. I
but
don't know how
I
you
love
have
what
time.
I'm doing, and that makes such difference, Katie.
I don't know how you have time to talk to us. You sound so slammed. We're honored.
Wow.
Well, I love to talk with people, and I
Yeah.
love to get the word out that there are other ways than chemo, radiation, and surgery. And, I don't mind if people select the chemo, radiation, and surgery. If they have a lot of faith in their doctor, then probably that's going to be best. But there are things that people can do to make the symptoms less toxic, and also things that they can do to build up their system after they've had these. And
Right.
I think a lot of times the traditional do not give people that kind of information that they need.
I hear you.
Right. Well, Justin and I recently just started eating those apricot kernels.
Did you? Great.
Yeah, we really think they're
But
amazing.
aren't they bitter, Katie?
Yeah, they are. They have that bitter taste to them. They're a little funky, but we just feel good adding them in. Have you recommended that to people over the years who aren't suffering from physical problems, just
Yeah,
as like a preventative?
Right.
Okay.
Edgar Casey, do you know that name?
Yes.
Yes.
Casey had recommended that if people ate, it was 2 or 3 almonds a day, that they would never have cancer. But I'm wondering, in retrospect, if maybe he meant the apricot kernel, because it looks like an almond,
It looks just like an almond.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Dr. Carl, do you soak those and get rid of the phytic acids on those like you do with almonds?
No, I just take them, and I ate 25 a day when I had cancer.
Wow.
And what I do is I just take 3 or 4 of them at a time, and I chew them up, and then I've got a glass of water ready, and I swallow them, and then I drink the water.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, speaking of foods and cancer, which is kind of what this whole talk is about, what are some of the worst foods for cancer? So, you see the average American, and I see them all the time walking around just eating at different restaurants, and it's hard not to be judgmental, but you look at their plates, and it's really kind of interesting, as far as how their food is going to affect their bodies. What kind of food do you think it might be the worst for cancers and diseases?
Well, I think first is sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And people love their Cokes. They love all of their sodas, but there's nothing in these things. I think they should be banned from this country. But again, this country revolves around money, and there's money to be made in Cokes. But from a health point of view, they should not be available. They're sugar, and they know that cancer cells thrive on sugar. The reason that people talk about that is because cancer cells are anaerobic. They do not like oxygen. And so it takes 15 times more sugar for the cancer cells to get what they need than for normal cells, because normal cells have oxygen that help in the process of breaking them down and using the sugars. So they need 15 times more, and so they have taken advantage of that in the alternative cancer field. There's a treatment called insulin potentiation therapy that they use, and what they do is when the patient gets up in the morning before they have breakfast, they give them insulin, and they drop their blood sugar level down, and I think it's around 40, whereas the normal is like 80 to 120. And then the cancer cells are barely thriving, and then they will give the patient glucose to raise it back up, and the cancer cells are gulping this because they are almost dying, and because they haven't had the glucose. And with that, they add either 1/10 dose of chemotherapy, or they might add Laetrile or some other cancer-killing agent. And the cancer cells take this in. And so that's one of the therapies that they use that is based upon their knowing that the cancer cells need the sugar.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've heard of IPT before, insulin potentiation therapy. We got to take a short break, Doctor. I want to get into maybe a couple other foods that you think that the average person's eating that could be causing cancer when we get back from the break. And then I want to get into some treatments that people can do if they have chemo to kind of offset the side effects of that. And some of your top anti-cancer supplements and different things we could be doing and eating and things like that to get rid of cancer if someone who's listening has been diagnosed. So we'll talk about all that after the break. We're with Dr. Carl O Helvie, and we'll be right back after this short break. So rebounding is, in my mind, one of the best ways to detoxify your lymphatic system, and it's the only exercise on earth that will actually detoxify your lymphatic system. And your lymph system is responsible for storing toxins and chemicals and poisons that you're exposed to. And there's no pump for the lymph system. It doesn't have a heart, so you have to move it up and down, and it's filled with millions of one-way valves that get squeezed and pushed and opened and closed every time you jump. And we feel like we've found the best rebounder on the market today. It's the Rolls Royce of rebounding. It's called the Bellicon. And I highly, highly stand behind this product. It's absolutely amazing. If you want to hear what some of our guests said about it, check them out on our store. You can listen to what a lot of our guests have said about rebounding and the Bellicon in particular. So a lot of times people will go on the rebounder with oxygen for cancer if they're really sick. And it's one of the most powerful things you can do to cleanse your body and to exercise every single cell in your body, every organ in your body. It's the only internal organ exercise you could do. And it's absolutely incredible. It also helps to rebuild bone density because of the up and down motion, the G-force that gets applied to every cell of your body. And it tightens and tones your body, and it's just really, really great aerobic exercise. And the Bellicon is made with straps, these bungee cords instead of springs. So it's silent, and they have a warranty on it. It's the best rebounder on the market today. So if you're in the market for one, I would highly recommend just saving up and getting the Bellicon, because there's no other rebounder on the market that's better than this thing. I firmly believe that. So if you're interested in it, check it out, extremehealthradio.com/Bellicon. That's B as in boy, ELLICON. And you can learn more about it and watch the videos on that page too. So thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy your rebounder, and we'll catch you on the next episode. All right, we're having a good time with Dr. Carl O Helvie. I just got off the rebounder, and Kate had some apricot kernels.
I did. I just went and ate a few apricot kernels.
How many did you eat?
3.
That's great. We're going to start offering those on our website.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing.
They look just like an almond, and they have a little aftertaste, and they're kind of bitter, but they're really good.
That's awesome. So, Dr. Carl, I wanted to ask you, we were just talking during the break, how many apricot kernels would you recommend if someone had cancer, or if they were trying to just prevent cancer? Are there 2 different dosages people should be taking?
Well, I took 25 when I had lung cancer, and people will tell you that you shouldn't take that many, but I didn't have any problem with 25, and I was taking 2,000 milligram of Laetrile at the same time, divided up into 3 doses over the day. So I think that when you have cancer, 25 is not too many, because, I mean, I didn't have any effect, and I came through sailing. I wouldn't take that many. If you didn't, as a preventive, I probably wouldn't take more than 8 or 10 a day at the most. I occasionally now will take, sometimes I'll take, maybe once a year, I'll go for a month, and I'll take maybe 500 milligram of the Laetrile. Or if I don't take that, then I'll take maybe 10 apricot kernels. But I'll do something once a year just as a kind of preventive thing.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, that's good to know, because a lot of people listening, a lot of our listeners are really interested in prevention, you know, and which I wish that most people were like that. But so taking 8 or 10 of those a day would be great as a preventative.
Do you know, Justin, my doctorate is in public health, and both of my masters are public health, which is all prevention. But unfortunately, we're going in the wrong direction. I was going with my previous doctor, I was going every 4 months for lab tests to detect any deviation so that it could be found early, which is easier to correct it. And now my doctor tells me I can only come once a year to visit him. And I said, well, I've been coming every 4 months. He said, yeah, but he said, I can't allow that with Obamacare. He said, I would be in trouble. He said, you're healthy. I said, but I'm a cancer survivor. I'm borderline diabetic. I'm borderline thyroid. And I control all these things naturally, but I would like to be able to see if there's any deviation. Well, he said, you can only come once a year. I said, in other words, it's not health care, it's sick care. He said, yes, if you get sick, you can come, but as long as you're healthy, you can't come. So I think we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, completely. I agree.
Oh, man.
That's what the name of the game is, prevention. People have to take care of their own health, and that's what you're teaching people, and that's kind of what we're doing. And so what are some things that people can do if they have, let's say they have chemo or they have a cancer diagnosis and they feel like they're getting strong-armed into a chemotherapy and radiation type of thing, but they have some ideas about natural treatments, and what kinds of things can they do to I guess increase the effectiveness of chemo, or perhaps get rid of the side effects? Because I think you talk about this in your book a little more extensively, right?
No, I don't talk much about that because I am basically so opposed to it. But if people want it, then I agree they should have it. What I usually do is I refer them to a resource that has a lot of information, and that's a book by Lise Alschuler, a naturopathic physician. That's called The Definitive Guide to Cancer, and she has a lot of information on what you can do if you have side effects. Now, my brother is 91, and he was diagnosed with lung cancer last fall. He had a strong faith in his doctor, and the doctor wanted him to have radiation, so he took the radiation, and I figured I can't interfere with that relationship, but I asked him if he would take the 2,000 milligram of Laetrile along with it, which he did. But they did 5 days a week for 5 weeks for a 91-year-old man.
Oh.
Wow.
And he has no energy. No,
Wow.
And so now what I'm doing, what I have done now, and again, I don't like to ask him to take a lot more things, but he's finished the radiation, and I've asked his daughter if she would have him start taking something called host defense that will build up his immune system. And I interviewed a physician from Nevada recently who was telling me that they build up their patients' immune systems with a preparation that has 17 organic mushrooms. And I said, I used to take something called host defense that had 17 organic mushrooms. And he said, yeah, that's what it is. I discovered later, and I started taking something called colostrum, which is the first milk of the mother after the newborn. And since I started taking that, it works better. It builds up your immune system to such a point that the seasonal allergies that I developed after Hurricane Isabel are gone. So I don't have allergies now. And so there are things that you can build up your immune system, but the other thing that I asked my niece to do with my brother is to get him a good probiotic, because I'm sure that the radiation killed all the good bacteria in his GI tract, and he needs to take something, either yogurt or a probiotic or something, to bring those good bacteria back. And I figured that was about the extent of what I could do to add to what his doctor had done with him.
Now, you talk a little bit about Protocell. Is that something that you still recommend people do, or?
I've never used it, but I am good friends with Tanya Harder-Pierce, who wrote the chapter. Mm-hmm. And the reason I asked Tanya to write the chapter is I worked with the homeless and low income for about 30 years, and it culminated into a grant that I wrote and received for almost $1 million. And I had a nursing center for homeless and low-income people. And we saved lives, I know, because people would come and tell us that they had never had health care before, and we were picking up cancer and hypertension and heart problems and all kinds of health problems. Mm-hmm. And so I have always had a warm spot for people, I guess because I also grew up poor, for people that don't have health insurance and don't have the benefits. Mm-hmm. And I wanted something that people could do at home if they couldn't afford to go for alternative treatments, if that's what they wanted. And so I thought, well, the Protocell is a very low-cost treatment, and she had some excellent case studies of people that had used it. And so that was the main reason that I included that.
What is Protocell?
Yeah, what is it?
Well, I asked her, I said, what is Protocell? And she said, well, it's not a chemical, it's not a vitamin. And she went through a whole list of things that it wasn't. And I said, well, then what is it? Mm-hmm. And she said, well, it's sort of a natural thing, but it's not any of these. And so it's hard. I mean, since I didn't write the chapter, it's hard for me to say because she just said all of the things that it wasn't.
Right, right. Yeah, We've heard about Protocell. I actually heard about it from a guy named David Wolf years ago, and he was really, really hot on it, and I know a lot of people use it.
How do people get it?
There is a site in there where you can get it, and I think that if people contact Tanya, she can refer them because she knows the family that makes this.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. And what about some other things people can do? I know there's lots of different things. Like we do a lot of rebounding and sweating for prevention, and there's SEACT, and we had a guy on our second interview talking about the power of selenium, and I'm sure you have a lot of these types of natural treatments in your book, right?
Well, I take selenium every day.
Okay.
I take, let me see, one thing that I take every day I think is very important for men, and that is pomegranate. And I take one pomegranate every day, and the research shows that pomegranate will prevent prostate cancer, and if you have prostate cancer, it will reduce the size of the tumor. And so I take one pomegranate every day. The selenium has been shown to be very good. Mm-hmm. I take a bilberry because bilberry is very good for night blindness. My doctor has been pushing me to have cataract surgery for 6 years and telling me that I can't see, and I keep telling him I have no problem seeing. I just keep taking my herbs, and I passed the test, 20/20 vision.
Wow.
But he tells me the cataracts are so bad I need surgery, and I keep telling him I'm fine. And so, but I do take a variety. Anytime the doctor tells me I have a problem, I'll find a natural way to deal with it. And my belief is that there are natural ways to deal with all health problems. Right. It's just a matter of finding the right thing for the right problem. And let me give you an example. I had diverticulitis, and the doctor gave me a prescription for steroids. Well, I don't like to take steroids, so I know that aloe vera juice is wonderful for any problem with the digestive tract. So I started drinking about 4 ounces of aloe vera in the morning and 4 ounces at night, and in 4 days the pain was gone. And that was 25 years ago. I've never had another problem. My doctor told me I would never eat berries again. I would never eat nuts. Well, I eat berries on my cereal every morning. I eat about 4 pounds of nuts a week. And when I had my last colonoscopy, the doctor told me I had diverticulosis. And I said, yeah, I know, and that's fine. I don't bother it, and it doesn't bother me.
You have a nice relationship with it.
Right. So I think that, from my radio show, again, now people might be interested in looking at my Holistic Health Show site. Mm-hmm. That's holistichealthshow.com, because every week I review, 2 days a week, I review the latest research on natural ways that prevent or treat cancer. And it's a lot of it is fruit and vegetables and grains and nuts and all of the things that I used. But it's a good resource. The other thing is that my show focuses on natural ways to deal with common health problems. And so I do series. So most series are 4, maybe 5 months. I've done a series on arthritis, on diabetes, on seasonal allergies, back pains, cancer, etc. And there are natural ways to deal with all of these.
Wow. And so people can go on your website, holistichealthshow.com, and find that, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
And when you do a series, do you do a certain amount of shows per week on a particular subject, or how do you coordinate and lay out those series?
What I do, Justin, is it's a series, but it will be like a 5-month series will be like, my show is 2 days every other week.
Okay.
And so it will be every other week, for that 4 months or 5 months.
Okay. And so you cover lots of different things, not just cancer.
Right. My Holistic Health Show is, for a variety of health problems, but my Beat Lung Cancer is focusing just on cancer.
Okay. And what do you make of cancer? We're talking a little bit ago about the insulin potentiation therapy, the IPT people can do, and that kind of correlates with insulin levels and blood sugar levels, and that kind of reminded me of the ketogenic diet. What are your thoughts on the ketogenic diet? I know it's becoming more popular these days for cancer.
Well, I remember the day when we used to do everything possible to keep the patient from having ketosis in the hospital.
Right.
And now when they talk about the ketogenic diet, now I interviewed Dr. Esslinger, who is the medical director for the Reno Integrative Medical Center, and he told me that they use that diet. But it's a little difficult for me to grasp that, in that it's heavy with meat and things. And see, on my diet, those were all not allowed. Okay. And all of the research that I read is all about fruit and vegetables. It's not about meat and all, and protein. Mm-hmm. So personally, I have difficulty with it. It's the same as I interviewed Brian Peskin, who says that fish oil is bad for us. And I have difficulty with that concept because, again, the research is all so positive about fish oil. And in my own personal life, I spend hours at the computer every day because my radio show is all, I use software and then I edit it and all. Mm-hmm. And so I spend many hours on the computer, and if I don't take if I drop the vitamin E and fish oil, I start getting dry eye. And once I put those back in my diet, the dry eye's gone. I don't have any problem. So I think that they might not be good for some things, but they'll have a bad effect on something else.
It's interesting with the ketogenic diet. It's wild how it just kind of correlates with blood sugar levels. And, it's so interesting when you look at people who have cancer or get diagnosed with cancer. Typically they have, very high sugar levels, or they're very addicted to, like you were talking about earlier, Cokes and bread products. And these are all sugar. And so it's interesting, the IPT, the ketogenic, and all this stuff just kind of all goes back to how cancer feeds on sugar. Mm-hmm.
Well, there also was a theory, I've not read much about it, but there was a theory that cancer was a fungus by a physician in France. It never went very far, But again, that's pretty easy to, think that there could be some validity to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, often women get fungal problems, and men do now. My doctor, yeast. I'm sorry, it was yeast, not fungal, but a yeast infection. And I developed yeast infection after antibiotics. And at the time, I didn't know that you should be taking probiotics, and my doctor told me that men don't get yeast infections. But
Right.
but that's not true.
Yeah.
It was a yeast thing, and I think that there could be some validity to that.
So
I think one of the things that is big right now, I gave a paper at the Annie Appleseed Conference in Florida about a month ago, and they had people there, and then I noticed that the same people are at the conference that went on this past weekend, is poly-MVA.
okay.
Have you heard of that?
I have heard about it, but I have no idea what it was. So it was on my list to ask you.
Oh, well, all I know is that poly-MVA is made from an earth metal called palladium and alpha lipoic acid, and I'm sure that you've heard of the alpha lipoic acid because that seems to be something that people hear more often, and it's mixed with vitamins, minerals, and amino acids.
Right.
And Dr. Forsyth, who wrote in my book, he used that, and then he added some homeopathic herbs and all, and he is having fantastic results. His stage 4 5-year survival is 46%. And his stage 4 5-year survival with lung cancer was like 39%.
Wow.
And the traditional is like 2 to 5%. And so he's having fantastic results with the poly-MVA mixed with some homeopathic substances.
That's 20 times or more than 20 times the effectiveness than the traditional treatments. That's amazing.
Right. And wouldn't you believe that the FDA and the medical profession went after him?
Oh yeah. Well, anybody that is doing good work, the FDA will go after
right.
him.
He told me, he said they tried to get my license, and he said they couldn't, but he said then they tried to bankrupt me. And I've gotten so that I go on the internet and I Google a doctor, and if they've had trouble with the law, then I mean not with the law, with the FDA and the medical profession, then I want to see what are they doing that's so great that called attention to them.
Right. That reminds me of Dr. Brzezinski down in Houston doing the same thing, and he got railroaded from the FDA, and they put him through the ringer. But yeah, a lot of good people doing amazing work, and whenever you see someone that's being railroaded by the FDA, you know they're doing good work, And
right.
Those are the people you want to run after.
So, Doctor, we got to...
Isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame, Justin?
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah, it's just...
so backwards.
It's so backwards. But we're running out of time, and I wanted to ask you before we go, what are some of the things that you're working on these days?
Well, right now I'm working on getting the foundation set up. I have a couple paintings, and I've had them for probably 25, 30 years, and the auction house has had them for 3.5 years, and they have just authenticated one of them. I knew they were valuable, but and I had a good idea who painted them, but it takes a long time to authenticate them, and one is an Edward Hopper. Do you know that name?
Oh, my gosh.
No,
yeah.
I'm not very well versed. Wow.
Katie, you know Edward Hopper?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I looked, and his paintings last year, one sold for just over $9 million, and the other sold for just over $10 million. And it will come up to auction in the May-June auction at Sloan's. And so I plan to use that money to start the foundation.
Oh, my gosh.
Then there's another painting that will be worth probably 4 or 5 times that.
Oh, my gosh. that you
they're
have.
They're finishing up the authentication for that one. There's so much jealousy and greed and all in the art world, which I was unaware of, but have learned.
I imagine
that people don't want paintings discovered,
right.
and especially the one that is worth so much more.
How did you get your hot hands on that?
Yeah.
Well, the other one, a neighbor died, and there was an estate sale, and he had brought back 250 paintings or so from the Netherlands, and he had taken all the stretchers off, and he brought them back flat. And when he died, they were in the closet, and so they had an estate sale, and I bought this one, and I knew that he was related to the person that we think is the artist, and it turned out that they think that it's an authentic painting.
Wow.
And they have, at this point, they have fingerprinted the painting, and they found prints in the paint, and they're trying to match the prints with the artist.
Wow. So you're going to use some of that money to start the foundation? Are you writing any new books or anything? Or
not right now. I've done about 35, I told you, 35 or so radio programs and 3 TV programs, and then the magazines and all, and I don't have a lot of extra time right now because I'd rather, continue doing the shows and all for other people and get the word out about this, because lung cancer, as you know, is the major killer of cancer. And so I want to make sure that I can reach as many people with this as possible.
I love it.
And then once I get the foundation going, I've gotten my board, and I'm very excited about the people I have on the board. And once I get this going, then I'll think about doing some more writing.
Oh, man, that's amazing. You've got a lot of work to do. I think you need about another 70 years to do all this.
Well, I'll tell you, Justin, I went to a psychic recently, and she said to me, I see you writing another book in 6 years. And she said, I see you doing this and this and this. And I said, Mary, I said, I'll be 81 in August. She said, well, let me see, blah, 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 blah. She said, well, I see you writing your last book when you're 115.
Oh, wow. Well, we'll take it.
I said, well, that's fine if I'm physically able and I'm mentally alert. I said, go for it.
Well, thanks so much, Dr. Carl, for being on the show. And thank you for all the work you're doing out there. And you sound like you're a busy guy, and it's really great. We're really excited about your work.
And loving it, Justin and Katie.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Would you mind?
And I thank you.
You're welcome. Would you mind holding on the line for just a moment?
Yeah, great.
Excellent. All right. Want to thank Dr. Carl O Helvie for being on. A great show, huh, Kate?
I'm a huge fan of Dr. Carl.
Yeah, we just spoke to him off the air for about 5 minutes, and he's just an awesome guy. I tell you, why aren't all 81-year-olds like that?
Man.
He's got a foundation he's doing. He's not in an old folks' home. He's got work to do.
You think?
I love it. He's got radio shows and series and books and lectures, and that's what I want to be like when I'm 81.
I do too. It doesn't make 81 seem old at all.
No, he's busy, and you go to old folks' home, and a lot of people there are 65, and they're
because they've given up.
They've given up.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. Interesting information too. So thank you everyone for joining us. Kate actually has to take off here. She's got some things she has to do. So we're going to make this short. I want to just thank you for being on the show and listening to what we got going on here. And if you want to support us, please feel free to do that. We could use your donations. Our donations are a huge way that we rely on for support and for paying all of our bills for our equipment and monthly costs for software and things. And so it's starting to add up, and we could really use your donations. So if you can, that would be amazing. But if you can't do that, I understand. Not a lot of people, it's money's tight these days. And so feel free to just send our link on Facebook to your friends and share this interview with as many people as you can. We'd appreciate that. That would be a great way to support us without having to donate. And also, we've got a great store too. If you're in the market to buy health products, check out our store. We've got over 75 products on there, all cutting edge things.